Hello everybody, this is the Rabid Hedgehog, and this is going to be the final review in the action cam lineup that I've got so far. So this may change in the future if I pick up another one. At any rate, this is going to be the review of the Sony AS100V. These cameras are actually still quite prevalent, despite the fact that these are older action cams versus some of the other Sonys. They do have the 1000V that's out right now, that's a 4K unit. They also have the AS200V that is the same as this unit pretty much, except for some small differences. Like this one has a 13.6 megapixel standard picture, and the megapixel rating on the AS200 I think is only 11. It's less, I know that for sure, which is kind of weird when it's a camera that's being produced to take the place of the other. So, and actually I think they've re-released the AS100V as well, because it's actually a very good little camera despite the fact that it is a little bit older. Now this particular camera is equipped with GPS, kind of similar to the Garmin. However, it is not as comprehensive as the Garmin. It doesn't have the gyro sensors, it doesn't have the G-force meter. All it can really pick up is where you've traveled, the map basically of where you've gone, so it can do a track day if you need it to, and it also can pick up your speed and things of that nature, but that's it. It doesn't do elevation, it doesn't do all the other stuff that the Garmin does, just pretty much track layout and speed. So you know, not as comprehensive, but hey, it still works. Now when it comes to the accessories for the AS100V, it's not as near as in depth as it is for the GoPro. Like I said, the GoPro camera is a very good motovlog camera because it's highly adaptable. Yes, it's expensive to do the adaptations, but you know what? It is a still very adaptable camera, you know, versus the Sony even, which is pretty much well dead set of being just pretty much a camcorder. There's no Bluetooth on it. It does have near-field communication, so if you do want to pair it with a smartphone, you can do a tap to the smartphone and it will pair it up that way. You can also pair it up with Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi on this actually can also be paired with the Sony remote, live view remote, and I've got one actually right there, as you can see. Maybe you can see the little picture it's providing right now. I do think that the AS100V and the other Sony cameras, they all do connect with the live view remote. The miniature AS100, or the miniature cameras that they have, I'm not sure of their model numbers. Those actually are a little bit different in that the GPS is not built into them, they're built into the live view remote too. So it can still do the catching and things that the AS100V and the 200 can do. You just have to have the correct live view remote, which is like this one. This is the second one. I actually do have that on board my bike. I do have the first edition, but my wife is using it right now as well. When it comes to the battery life of the Sony, it actually has much better battery life than the GoPro. I can easily get 3 hours out of one camera in general at 1080p 60. Not in Pro mode though. In Pro mode it is closer to the GoPro, where it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes in terms of how much usage I can get out of it. The Sony does have a swappable battery, and it uses an X-type Sony battery, so real easy to find. They are about $40 a piece versus a GoPro's $20 a piece battery pack, but like I said, you do get more life out of it most of the time. Now, I am running this camera in its 1080p 60 frames per second Pro mode, so I can basically compare it to the other cameras like the Garmin here and also the GoPro. I do have it in vivid color palette as well. And if you look, like I said, on a Sony during the GoPro review, its dynamic range isn't as far. Like when I look out, I can see blue sky all the way down there. With the Sony, it's going to white out basically because of the dynamic range. Also, shadows around these trees and these cars here are not going to be as clear and as crisp, and you won't be able to see the undercarriage of the car or down to the road. You'll just see kind of a blurry, you know, motion under there. That's just because the Sony just doesn't quite have the dynamic range. The other thing about the Sony though, and this is what I was talking about with the buckles in the GoPro review, don't mind them because I do actually use this camera forward mounted, despite the fact that it looks like Gonzo's nose. I mean, seriously, this thing is huge. As you can see from the Garmin Verb that's on my handlebar looking back at it, this camera does stick out quite a bit. If you're going to use it for a front mount. The two recommended positions for the Sony is on the top or on the side for sure. If you want to put it on the front, it is very much doable. I am showing that off, but it looks stupid, you know, and I don't really care. I don't care about looks in any way. I care about the picture quality. And like I said, the Sony provides the most natural picture quality of all of the action cams that I have. And I've been using these particular cameras for a little over 2 years. Most of my motovlogs have actually been with the Sony AS100V versus any of the other ones. A GoPro was donated by a fan, the GoPro Hero 4 Silver. I bought the Session, so that way I can kind of compare a little bit more here and there. And I like the Verb. I mean, like I said, it's a great camera, and I like the GoPro. It's a better camera for motovlogging. But you know, I do like the Sony as well. It is not a bad camera. And when it comes to mounting, I mean, it's just like the GoPro Session, but it at least can do a little bit more than the Session. You can have the external microphone. You can see it plugged in down there, I hope. That external microphone goes into the same microphone I use in the GoPro, or with the GoPro, that I have to use an adapter to. The Sony can do that without an adapter. It has the jack built into it until you get to the later models. The newer ones that are out are no longer coming with the 3.5mm jack, which I think is a very short-sighted decision by Sony to do that. I thought this idea was pretty much perfect. They also used to have all these cases that were backwards compatible with each other, with like the AS15, the AS20, the AS100V, the 200. They all shared the same form factor, but then you get to the 1000 and they change the position of the buttons a little bit, and now this skeleton case can't even work with it at all, and there's no skeleton case to replace it, so you have to leave the thing pretty much wide open. Yeah, it has a standard tripod jack on the bottom of it, but now your camera's exposed all the way around, you know, to use it, because you can't use it in the waterproof case, and you don't have the skeleton case. And that this one does have the skeleton case. At least it keeps it somewhat protected, because you got to have that bottom door open for the microphone. I'll get it out here, and that means you're losing your water resistance that this camera has built into it. That's right, the Sony is a splash-proof bodied camera without the case on, but the case that goes on it is darn near worthless. If you put the regular waterproof case on, it hurts the forward-mounted microphones, and it only gets you like 15 meters. Whoop-de-doo. Actually, I think it's less than that. But it's still terrible. I think it's actually 15 feet. I think it's like 6 meters, 3 meters, 6, somewhere in there. It's terrible. When the GoPro can go like 30 plus, you know, with its case, or without, you know, like the Session without its case. So, like I said, the Sony has some downfalls to it. And the biggest one is just the fact that it doesn't have a very good waterproof case. Another big downfall of the Sony is the lens distortion on it. The lens really fisheyes on the edges more so than any of the other action cameras. That's because Sony fitted it with a rounded lens, and even the casing is all rounded. So if you get the splash-proof case, or not, well, the waterproof case, it's rounded. If you get, you know, any sort of lens protector, it's rounded. You can buy the newer cameras like the AS50. That one's newer, and it has a flat-faced lens on the front of it now with its dive case, which is a much superior dive case, I might add. They did make that one more waterproof, but any of the 200 series or 1000 series, they're not very good. But the new AS50s, they are very much better, or HDR 50, or however they've rated it now. But that's only one of the flat ones, so you get this terrible lens distortion. But you know, it's not gonna stop me from using this camera. I've used this camera for like everything. When it comes to the reviews, where I'm standing out and like doing a helmet review, it's this camera. When I'm doing reviews at my desk, it's this camera. And that's because it's still got a better sound quality if I'm using it off the bike. Now, like I said, this is for moto vlogging. So because of the features it does have, and the fact that it does have a water resistant body, the fact you can do the external microphone with it, the fact that it does come with a very good picture, and because of the adaptability that you can get GoPro mounts with it and go ahead and use them, then you can pretty much adapt it to any mounting position you need. Therefore, it's still a good moto vlog camera. Like I said, if you want to put it on the front end, yes, you can. I mean, it's very much doable. You're just going to look goofy doing it. Like I said, very good for side mounting. But other than that, you know, it's very, very good camera. I mean, there's another downfall to it, and I won't show it here, and I won't show it on the review, kind of like the GoPro. It's the menu system on this thing is ridiculous, because you got to go through one at a time and choose, and then scroll through some more, and then choose, and then go through some more to finally find your setting. It takes a lot to dig around and find all the settings that you need to do, because they're buried in menu on menu on menu. It's kind of a Sony thing if you've ever owned anything anything else from Sony, where they bury everything in menus. So it's basically the same thing. The reason I don't want to show it is because the newer models have a different user interface that's actually much cleaner and easier to use. So, you know, when it comes down to it, as a motovlog camera, I believe the Sony is a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Not as good as the GoPro because it's not as adaptable, but because of accessories like the Live View remote, you know, that's a better remote to me than the GoPro one, because you actually can see what the camera's doing. This thing saved my butt a couple of times too, because I've had a couple of the glue mounts fail from Sony, which there's another problem with Sony. But you know, like I said, because of the adaptability with the GoPro, then I don't care as much about the mounts, because I can buy GoPro mounts that have a superior tape and use those versus the Sony ones, and they're just as expensive and just as cheap as each other if you want to look at it that way. So that's why I don't really care about the mount problem, because I can adapt, and it doesn't take much to adapt. The skeleton case has a tripod jack on it. I have a tripod jack to GoPro mount done. It cost $1 for that particular deal. So now I can use any mount that GoPro has, or I can use any mount that Sony has. Doesn't matter to me. So sorry about that ramble there, but like I said, it comes down to it with a good picture quality. And this one's not going to do 4K. This one's not going to do 1440. This one's not going to do 2.7. This is only going to do 1080-60 as its maximum. It does have a slow motion view as well, 120 frames per second, 720p, same as the GoPro Hero 4 Silver. You know, it has the same kind of compatibility that the GoPro has, just not quite as much resolution, but this one's also 2 years older. It's a much older camera, but still holds its own in the, you know, department of being an action cam. So 4.5 stars out of 5. Very good, solid camera if you want to choose one of these for your motovlog camera and your setup. It's up to you if you want to look goofy or just put it on the side and have a little bit of a 3/4 view of the helmet. At any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. If you do have any more questions about the Sony AS100V, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to help and answer all the questions I can. If you have any suggestions of what you would like me to review, just let me know as well. Keep the shiny side up, folks, and we will catch you on the next review.